for joining us on the Ben and Liam podcast. With the boys are now enjoying their holidays. So it's up to just you and me to review the year that brought us glee. It's the Ben and Liam Best of Podcast.
Unbelievable stories.
Ben and Liam's Unbelievable Stories. Unbelievable.
This week, Ben, we have had some absolute bangers so far.
Just like Daniel. Good morning, Daniel.
Hey guys, how you going?
Very good, mate. Can you give us your unbelievable story?
Yeah, sure. So, me and a friend of mine from Adelaide, we entered a yacht race back in 2018 from Melbourne to Osaka, Japan.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big
that's
distance. That's how long is that supposed to take?
So it was 33 days in total. However, we did have to stop in Cairns for a couple of days because of it. We was actually a cyclone on the way up as well. So
Oh, that wasn't enough to deter you for the month in a boat when there was a cyclone happening?
So you
Pretty
put in
close
at Cairns. What happens after that?
So after that, we made our way up through Papua New Guinea, and going up along the coast. And I was off shift at the time, and my mate Tom poked his head down and said, "Oh, Dan, I think you better wake up. I think we've got an issue here." So I poked my head out the companionway, and sure enough, there was two boats coming directly for us with three guys in each boat, full steam ahead, and we were just thinking, "Oh God, here we go." These guys were there to take some of our gear, so as they were pulling up alongside.
Daniel, the word on everyone's lips here is pirates. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I guess pirates in the
This isn't Pirates of the Caribbean. Where's all the rum gone, pirates? This is like Captain Phillips, I am the captain now, sort of.
AK-47 cap.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That was the first thing that was going through my head. My heart was racing, and I was thinking, "Yep, it's all over. I'm going to get tied up, and it's all done, so to speak."
And then, so they're coming towards you. They board, I'm assuming. What happens?
Yeah, so they pulled up alongside us, told us to pull our sails down, and well, actually, there was only one guy that spoke English, and he said,
"I'm the captain now."
Funnily enough, he said his name was Brian, he definitely didn't look like a Brian, but
Brian the pirate. Did he have a peg leg? Gar, my name be Brian. Pull your sails down.
He didn't, but so he put it down. He said, we don't want to hurt you guys, but we're here to take some of your. Want to take some of your stuff, so essentially, more or less. So
what do they take?
First of all, they asked us if we had any drugs or alcohol on board, and we said no, nothing like that here. We ended up saying to them, "Oh, look, we've actually got the Australian Navy coming up behind us, so we can't really, if you take this stuff, they're going to come and try to find you." Whereas, that was obviously a bit of a bluff, and Brian was sort of staring me down at the time, and
with his one eye, the one that didn't have a patch over it.
That's it. Yeah. So he sort of was eyeing me off for a while and was trying to figure out whether I was bluffing, and then in the end, I said, "Oh, wait here, guys." I sort of popped downstairs. And getting all this beef jerky that we weren't eating, and I ended up like handing it out to all the guys, and and they loved it. They loved the beef jerky, and
they'd never seen dehydrated meat before.
No, they hadn't. They sort of looked at it for a while and started eating it, and they thought it was awesome. So they become a bit more friendly after that, and ended up asking us to go back to the island with them, and we said, "No, we can't do that. We're not going to go back to the island with you." And the last thing they sort of said was, "Oh, would you mind taking a shipment of illegal drugs back to Australia with you?"
Oh, if you don't mind.
Seeing as we're all friends now.
Yeah, since we're all mates, and so I said, "Oh, look, we're actually on our way to Japan, but what we could do is on the way back to Australia, we might swing through, and
we'll come back to you. Yeah, we'll come back to you.
So. Yeah, I handed them my fake details, and they told me what village they're from, and essentially parted ways. So
that is an unbelievable story.
I mean, that
Daniel.
is amazing, and I love how they just went, "Can you take our drugs for us?" He went, "No," and they went, "All right, well, we'll see you later. Thanks for the jerky." When you thought, realistically, international waters, they could have killed you. No one would ever find you. It doesn't really matter. They could have done whatever they wanted with the boat and taken everything. But they seem like actually pretty nice guys. I think pirates get a pretty bad rap,
Besides all the drug smuggling stuff.
Apart from that, like getting the illegal drugs into Australia, like, great guys.
Oh, my God. Daniel, thank you so much for your unbelievable stories.
That is amazing.
No worries, guys.
Liam Pod Men Cast. Wait, I said that wrong. Ben and Liam podcast.
Looking forward to this. Erin, we've heard you have an unbelievable story. Is this true?
I do. So in short, I survived a bungee jump cord failure and ended up as an illegal immigrant in Zimbabwe.
What? What happened?
Erin,
Did the cord
what
snap?
the hell?
I can tell you for a fact that your feet don't slip out. So that was my worry when they're strapping you in. I was paranoid my feet were going to slip out,
Yeah.
but no, my feet stayed in and the cord actually snapped. So I was
The cord snapped.
I was at Victoria Falls, which
Yeah.
is in Zambia, on the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe, and was there on a tour with a bunch of friends, and had never been bungee jumping before. And I don't know if I technically can say that I have, because I haven't really got a plan.
I mean, that's true.
So it's 364 feet or 111 metres, the actual
You
jump,
are
and then
kidding
from
me.
you might have to confirm this, but I think I'm still the only person to survive a cord snapping.
Obviously, from that height, the bungee must have taken a bit of resistance of the fall, and it must have snapped at such a point where it took enough off of the fall where you can survive. Because there's no way. I mean, if you just jumped and you hit, you wouldn't survive that. There's no way.
At Victoria Falls. So did you land into water?
Yeah, so it's not one of those jumps where you're supposed to come anywhere near the water. I mean, Africa, the water quality isn't fantastic, and there's crocodiles and hippos and you name it in that river, so you're not supposed to come anywhere close to it. And in fact, in the dry season, there's hardly any water going through there. So the jump stopped 20, 30 metres above the water, but the cord pretty much snapped straight away. So what they think now, looking back, is that there'd been a fair bit of rain the day before, so the water was fairly turbulent. So the impact wasn't actually the worst bit. The worst bit was going through grade 2, 3 level rapids with my legs tied together and the cord trailing behind me.
So what injuries?
So it wasn't just to hit the water and then it was done. It was a bit of an ordeal.
Erin, what injuries did you sustain, if any?
So incredibly lucky. So no broken bones, which you can imagine falling from that sort of height. I was pretty lucky to effectively walked away. I was walking around that afternoon. I collapsed both my lungs on impact, basically like a balloon popping, just because I hit the water so hard.
Yeah.
Full of water. So the medical term is bilateral pneumothoracic, but basically popped both my lungs and they were full of liquid.
Yeah.
And bruises.
So you said you are going through the rapids, your feet are tied together. Can you tell me two things? What was going through your head? Like the moment you hit the water, did you know what was going on? Did you know the cord had snapped? And then once you were in the water and you got through the rapids, what happened? Did you just wash up on the shore?
I think subconsciously I must have realised that the cord had snapped because at some point before hitting the water, I actually moved my arms from that, the dive position when you're jumping off to above my head, and I locked my wrists together. So my arms hit the water first, which was good. So I didn't actually lose consciousness when I hit the water. And then my brain sort of broke everything down into like these little segments of only focusing on what I needed to in each moment. So when I was underwater, I remember blowing bubbles and going, okay, the bubbles are going up, follow the bubbles sort of thing, which sounds funny when you put it that way, but really I broke it all down into those little steps. So I got to the surface, had done whitewater rafting that morning, so remembered the safety briefing, which, you do all these things and you sit through these safety briefings, not really paying attention, but turns out subconsciously I was. And they said, when you're going through rapids, you want to go feet first so that your feet can act as a bit of a springboard so that if you hit any rocks or smash up against anything, you can use them to push yourself off. And my legs were tied together. So I went through the rapids, got through one and ended up getting stuck because you get sucked down into like a whirlpool sort of thing. And I remember swimming up to the surface and getting stuck just below and being able to see daylight. But my cord was stuck under something under the water.
Wow.
So I turned around and found my legs and followed the cord back down and basically yanked on it until it came free and popped back up, and then swam to the side. And good old Aussie swimming lessons remembered in a rip, you don't swim against the current, you swim at an angle. So I did all that and was just holding on to the shoreline for what felt like forever. But it's a border crossing and it's a gorge, so it's really steep. And where I ended up, there's no actual pathway down to the river. One of the guys from the company, that was actually the first one down, he pulled me out. Hadn't had much first aid training, so just ripped me out. So thank God I didn't have any spinal damage or anything like that. And I ended up putting myself into the recovery position and, I was wiggling my toes and things like that, making sure that was all intact.
Yeah. $1 million question. Would you ever do it again?
So I get asked this a lot. So one, I don't know if I can actually claim I've done it. Two, I think my mum would actually kill me.
She would. If you made it back, she would kill you anyway. So best not to, I reckon.
But no, I'm not scared of heights or anything like that. So I probably consider skydiving, but I
Don't do it, Erin. I don't want to talk to you again.
Yeah.
I love you, and it's been a great story. We don't need another story like this. You've told your story. I think that's more than enough for one lifetime. Thank you so much for joining us. So glad you're okay. That is an unbelievable story.
No worries. Thank you. And statistically, hey, for those who are considering bungee jumping, it's still pretty unlikely that that's going to happen. And it is covered by most insurance companies.
I feel
so
like
have
the bungee community has paid you quite a lot to say that. I mean, that's probably your...
Well, look at it this way. I went bungee jumping and I was fine. So 50-50. If you want to do it,
You're on a wage
chance.
from bungee jumping, the world sort of bungee committee.
Well done, Erin. Very well told.
Good on you. Thanks, Erin.
fun. You guys, bye.
That bit's done. Here's another one.
We're joined now by Tamara and Jake. Thank you so much for joining us.
No worries, guys. How are we?
Very good. Can you please give us your unbelievable story?
Yeah, so basically we've successfully circled the world during a pandemic and sailed across from Panama with zero experience back to Australia.
Oh, my God.
That is a heck of a headline. So can you talk us through the actual journey? Why did you do this?
We sailed because we couldn't, with Australia's caps and lockdowns and everything like that, we couldn't get a flight back home. And if we could, it was going to cost us $15,000 per person from Mexico.
Wow.
So we started looking into alternative methods to get home, and we found sailing was a good option.
And so
Take to the water.
did you just find random people and ask to jump on their boats? How did that part work?
Yeah, mate, basically we're just hitchhiking down at the marina and we're like, who's going to Australia? And we'll jump on that boat.
Is that seriously how it works? This kind of blows my mind.
Essentially, man. There's other ways you can work it out, like through Facebook groups like that. There's actually one called Sailboat Hitchhiking, but really the best thing to do is grab a carton and go down to the marina and start talking to people.
That is awesome, because that's how it works here sometimes. You just do it for a slab or whatnot.
Yeah.
I'd imagine you've spent a lot of time with people with dreadlocks, because they seem like the kind of people who are like, whatever, we're all just on the same journey. Let's reach our destination together.
So whereabouts are you at the moment?
In Denarau in Fiji, actually.
Okay, and the goal is to get back to where?
The end goal, is Sydney, but there's too much lockdowns right now, and we kind of want to wait out winter. But what we're doing is going through next week. We're going to start sailing again on a different boat, and should be arriving around Brisbane in like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
That is crazy. So have you sort of had any bad experiences? I'm sure you've met some incredible people along the way.
Yeah.
But has there been any dodgy sort of times whilst you've been sailing the world trying to get back to Australia?
Yeah, mate. Essentially, our first sailing experience before we done anything was with a captain with no idea, and the boat started taking on water, and we ended up having to make emergency stop in Ecuador.
Oh,
To be honest,
wow.
I couldn't point out Ecuador on a map. But that's cool that you nearly sunk there.
Yeah, so you had a captain with no experience. I guess that'll happen when you're just giving him a carton. If I'm probably a random guy.
True. I mean, Tamara and Jake, that's a little bit on you guys as well. I mean, you were just giving them Cooper's Greens going, hey, can you get us to Australia? He's like, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't even
I'll just take his boat.
This isn't even my boat. I'm going to distill this now and we're going to jump on it together.
Yeah, that's probably our fault.
So look, if people can see your journey and your trip on the socials, Lockdown Travellers, that's on Instagram and Facebook. So if all goes well, you'll be in Brizzy in 2 weeks.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, so we should be getting into Brisbane 2 weeks' time, and it's been an epic voyage. Actually, we left when Corona started, and just trying to make our way home. We were tour guides in Thailand, and then ended up, in the other side of the world in Central America.
This is crazy.
You're a wild couple.
I know.
A wild couple.
I bet you guys get up to some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm pretty go with the flow, but
Yeah.
I don't know how I'd go spending an afternoon with you guys. He'd be like, why don't we just I don't know, tape fireworks to ourselves and just run around okay, why not?
Hey, Tamara and Jake, it was a pleasure to hear your story. Thank you so much for sharing it for us.
No worries at all, guys. Have a good one.
All the best. Maybe get some good beers. Like we've got Mismatch Brewing here, or maybe like a Stone and Wood or something, so then you can make sure you get a good captain all the way back to Brisbane.
Yeah, we're looking at getting a Stone and Wood shift in so we get a decent festival on the way back.
I mean, it's like $80 slabs, isn't it? So you'd be, that's top end stuff.
Better than 15 grand for a plane ticket, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
P to the O to the D to the cast.
This morning we're joined by Paul, who has an unbelievable story for us. Is that right, Paul?
Sure.
Well, Paul, if you can just go from the start, because we don't know what it is, what is your unbelievable story?
I was at work, had the best job ever. I was heading down the Zambezi River in Africa.
Yeah.
I was a guide. I had a couple of clients in my canoe. Boat next to me was my mate Mac. Next to him was Ben, a couple of clients in his canoe. And we come across a pod of about a dozen hippos. Fun fact, hippos are responsible for killing more people in Africa every year than any other animal.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I figured as long as we stayed in shallow water, we'd be just fine. So then we came into this little narrow channel and sitting there relaxing, suddenly there was just this huge thwack behind me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I knew that sound all too well. It was the sound made when a hippo hit the back of a canoe. And I turned just in time to see Evans flying through the air. He'd been catapulted. Fortunately, there was this rock close by, so I told Ben and Mac to get the clients to safety. Didn't have time to drop my clients off, so I turned my canoe backwards and I went in to save Evans. Then this, it's kind of like those old movies where you see the torpedo coming in towards a canoe, towards a boat.
Yeah.
So I see this coming towards me and I think, okay, hippo. So I thwack my paddle on the water and it seemed to work. And it gave me enough of a respite to be able to get close enough to Evans, lean over, went for my Hollywood moment, leant over to grab a hold of his outstretched hand to pull him into my canoe when suddenly just everything went dark. My world just faded to black and it went quiet. And I wasn't dry, but I wasn't wet either, not like my legs were. So I struggled to break free at first. It was a pretty pathetic attempt at first because my arms were pinned to my sides. But then I managed to get one hand free and feeling around, I felt the bristles on a hippo's snout.
Oh, you were in the hippo.
You were eaten by a hippo.
Yeah.
Oh. And how did you get out?
So fortunately, I think I was wedged so far down his throat that I think it must have been really uncomfortable that he couldn't really get a hold of me. And he shook his head around and spat me out. So then I come to the surface, suck in a lung full of fresh air, and I get face to face with Evans. And I'm like, we got to get out of here. And so I'm swimming away, and I'm making pretty good progress until I take a stroke and I look. And there, charging in towards me, is the hippo coming again.
Oh,
and this time he scores a direct hit. Both of his tusks tearing through my torso, and I can see my feet and legs hanging out of one side of his mouth, my arms, head and shoulders outside the other. When hippos are pissed at something, they just try to destroy them. And that's what this hippo was doing. I mean, he would throw me up into the air and catch me. I remember at this one point, he bit down so hard, I thought for sure he was going to chomp me in half. It didn't take me too long to figure out that I needed to hold on to the tusks that were boring through me, because if I didn't, my flesh was tearing too much. So I did that, and then the thrashing stopped and the hippo just dove for deep water. That kind of led to possibly one of the most surreal moments in my life when I remember lying on the bottom of the river. There I am, pinned inside this hippo's mouth, its tusks boring through me, watching my blood mingle with the water. And I'm looking up and I thought to myself, I wonder who can hold their breath the longest. And we just lay there. It was weird. Both just lay there. I had no fight left in me. And then the hippo surges to the surface, flings me out again. And this time Mac, the mate of mine I told you about, who was in the safety kayak, risked his life. I mean, just incredible bravery. He had paddled into the melee, had seen where it went down. And so when I burst to the surface, there his canoe was. So I was able to grab a hold of the handle on the boat's nose, and Mac paddled for all he was worth and dragged me to safety as the hippo tried to get a hold of us.
Oh, my God.
But I'm here to tell you the story today, which illustrates that he was successful.
Oh,
That
Paul,
is
that's
one of the best
story.
we've had. That is incredible, Paul. I'm so glad you got out of that okay. I mean, how long were you sort of in hospital after? Are you okay now? What sort of happened from the injuries?
I'm good. It turns out 38 major bite wounds, but had a phenomenal surgeon, so just ended up losing one arm. They managed to put the rest of me back together.
Oh, Paul, did the clients leave you a good or a bad Google review?
Let's just say I don't think any of them went canoeing again.
I don't think so. Paul, that is incredible. We're so glad you're here to tell the story, and what a story it is.
Well told.
That is unbelievable. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Blanc, Blanc. Ben and Liam's unbelievable stories.
Ben, normally we don't know who we're speaking to for unbelievable stories, but we had a heads up on this one, and we're so excited. In fact, for the very first time, this person joins us in the studio. It's Dr. Richard Harris. Harry to his mates. Can we call you Harry this morning?
Please do, Liam. Thank you.
Now, Harry, you have truly one of the most unbelievable stories on earth, so much so that I don't think anyone who's ever seen the news wouldn't know about this.
I must admit, I feel ignorant not knowing that you were from little old Adelaide, and I'm so proud that you are from little old Adelaide. Can you, for the listeners, tell us, what did you do?
Well, I was involved in the 2018 Thai cave rescue. I was the anaesthetist who went over to sedate and anaesthetise those boys at the far end of the cave and then help dive them out.
So you had the perfect expertise of cave diving and also being able to put the kids under.
Well, I knew one day that my niche sport of cave diving would pay dividends, and all those time away from my wife and family would show benefits in the long run.
Harry, what I'd like to know is who gave you the call? Because obviously you have this, such unique expertise, but is there some sort of computer somewhere when disaster strikes, they can type it in and two people come up and they're like, okay, there's Adelaide, is that how you say it? Dr. Richard Harris, we need to call this man. Like, who breaks that news to you?
No, the global cave diving community is pretty small.
Yeah, okay.
So there were a couple of guys who were already involved, guys that I already knew. One, a Belgian guy who lived in Thailand called Ben, who was on the ground and helping with the cave rescue.
Yep.
And then a couple of British guys were asked to go over there who are very well known in cave diving circles, who had done some rescue work before, and I knew one of those guys as well, so they were the guys who contacted me.
And mate, there's obviously a difference between cave diving for fun on the weekends and then an operation as dangerous as this. Did it cross your mind to not head over, or was this an easy decision for you?
A very easy decision to go because, well, for two reasons. Firstly, I'd been involved in volunteer cave rescue for quite a number of years, and we'd been training for an event along these lines, although this was pretty much off the scale in terms of what we ever thought we would get involved with.
Yeah.
But we were starting to feel like firemen who'd never been to a fire, We'd done all this training and preparation and never put it to use. So when I heard that these kids were trapped in a cave, I was actually pretty keen to be involved.
And so for someone like myself and a lot of people listening that have no cave diving experience whatsoever, what are the dangers...
Speak for yourself.
Sorry, Liam. What are the dangers you face with this rescue mission?
Well, the primary danger to us was that the cave was not a cave that you would normally go diving in because it's seasonally floods. It's usually dry for 6 months of the year, and then the monsoons come. Basically, a river appears out of the entrance, and it would be very dangerous to go diving in there because it's high flow, zero visibility, chocolate milk coloured water. It's not a place you'd wander into for fun. So the cave was not a particularly friendly cave diving environment, if you like, compared to the beautiful caves that we normally explore.
I must admit, this sort of, when you actually look at some pictures of this cave, I'm sure you've done it before, but if not, Google the Thai cave, and you can see how narrow some of these passages are. It actually makes me sick to my stomach when I think about it. I think that's probably my worst fear, being in a confined space underwater. Is it true at points of the operation you had to have your tank off to get through these places because they were so small?
No, it wasn't quite that tight, but certainly wriggling through with your stomach and your back rubbing on the rock in a couple of spots. So
how do you mentioned the chocolate coloured milk was the water. How do you see in that? Or do you just feel your way, or what happens there?
Yeah, you can't see. I just have my eyes closed most of the time.
So what? You're just moving forward.
We always have a rope running through the cave. So the first two guys who made their way as far as the kids put a rope in with the help of the Thai Navy SEALs and some of the other divers. And so that rope was installed by the time I got there. So basically one hand on the rope and just follow it 3 hours through the cave to the end.
And obviously you had all of the gear to do the anaesthesia. Is that, what's the word?
Anesthesia.
Anaesthesia, sorry. Anaesthesia.
It's a great Disney film. I'm assuming you didn't bring the DVD with you.
No.
You had all of that in what, like a watertight container? How'd you get that there?
Yeah, just a little pouch that we took through.
Yep. Boring question.
I don't know how you're so casual about this now. Yeah, it's just a pouch. But, I mean, so what's the state? When you get in there, these boys have been trapped in there for 17 days. Obviously, they're excited they're being rescued. What's the sort of atmosphere in there? Is it just stress? Have they calmed down at this point? What are you dealing with?
The kids were extraordinary, and I can't overstate how calm and tough these little boys were. They were, seriously, it looked like they were just out on a Sunday afternoon jaunt, and they were sitting there going, yep, we explained that this crazy idea that we were going to anaesthetise them and then take them out underwater. And seriously, the boys just, thumbs up, yep, all good, let's go.
Wow.
And I just was incredulous at how calm the lads were, really.
So does that mean that if you were putting all of them under one by one as they went off, you were the last person to leave?
Yeah, so I would anaesthetise one boy at a time.
Yep.
We would dress them up in the diving gear, and then one of the British divers would take that boy all the way out through the cave with the help of other cave divers like my mate Craig, who we stationed along the way.
Yep.
And once we'd done 4 boys for the day, I would swim out by myself, and then we'd all come back the next day and repeat. And we did that for 3 days to get all 13 out.
Wow.
That is just incredible. And I'm assuming they were under in the first place because it was quite a stressful situation getting out. Obviously, you guys are quite highly trained and you had a little bit of experience. Was that the main reason?
This was absolutely the last option for me to do this anaesthetic plan, because I felt it was so dangerous for these boys to be anaesthetised, pushed underwater for what would be a 3-hour trip underwater.
3 hours.
And normally you're there. If it's an operation, you're monitoring this.
Yeah, I mean, the lights are on.
For starters,
you're not underwater. You're surrounded. They're covered in monitor. Your patient's covered in monitors. You've got trained assistants with you.
Yeah.
This was basically put them to sleep, push them underwater, head them off with a layperson, another diver who had no medical experience, and expect that they were going to be alive 3 hours later. Well, I just didn't believe it was possible.
It's mind-boggling that you got them all out of there safe. And that's why I think the world thinks this is such an incredible story. And I mean, everyone knows about it. Every time you hear about it, you're like, it can't be. It seems like a movie.
Yeah.
And it's being made into a movie. Is that right?
Honestly, the whole thing was written like a Hollywood script, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right down to the last minute when the cave started flooding. As we got the last boy out, the cave reflooded and the pumps broke down and everyone went running out screaming. I mean, honestly, this thing was made for Hollywood, and there's lots of stuff going on in the movie.
I mean, even the fact of you getting the call, like, I don't think that happens other than the movie. Like, you're the only man with this expertise who can do this. Like,
look, it is such an incredible story.
It's not. The segment is unbelievable stories, but this is incredible. This is our first incredible story.
People can catch your podcast, Real Risk, if they want to hear more of this. Did you meet James Cameron when you were there?
James Cameron wasn't in Thailand, but I have worked on another film where James was the executive director, so I got to meet him. And I also met him through a mate of mine who was a cave diver who did some movie work with James. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast as well? I mean, it sounds to me like you're just catching up with people now who've been in similar predicaments to you.
Well, for years people have called me a fool. You must be crazy to do what you do, and I've never felt like I was doing anything particularly dangerous. With cave diving, we're well trained. We've got good equipment. We understand the risks, and so the risks can be really carefully mitigated. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, I wonder if other people who are adventurers or risk takers also get this kind of abuse.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I'll start a podcast and talk to other people who do stuff that would frighten me. So people like mountain climbers or, I just spoke to a guy who does the Red Bull air race. And, just stuff like this. And, my hypothesis was that they were actually all be really sensible people who are very careful about what they do. And pretty much I've found that to be the case. And along the way, I've heard these amazing stories. So it's been really good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this experience has changed your life, but are you still operating as an anaesthetist in Adelaide? Like, if we end up having an op one day, will we just look up and see you just before you count backwards from 10? Oh, remember we were on Nova.
Yeah, no, I am still working as an anaesthetist, but just half-time now, and I've
Yep.
got all
Okay.
these other exciting
And do they
opportunities
tell the
as well.
patients? Do they go, you know who that is?
Well, I was actually worried that people wouldn't want that crazy cave diving.
Right, they're like,
as their
I don't want
anaesthetist.
this guy putting me
No,
to
just
sleep.
get me a normal anaesthetist,
Yeah.
thanks. But by and large, people seem pretty happy to see me and interested in the story, obviously.
I think I would feel pretty safe in your hands.
100%. It's an incredible story. You're an incredible man, and I'm even more impressed that it's out of little old Adelaide.
Yep.
Thank you so much for spending so much time with us this morning, Dr. Richard Harris, Harry to us, and make sure you check out Harry's podcast as well, Real Risk. Appreciate the chat.
Thanks, guys.
Ben and Liam is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcasts.com.au.